Hi. And here we are. The last 12 days of creativity masterclasses for 2024. It's been a journey since September, and we have a guest, Sophia, aka Drum and Lace. I'm such a big fan, and you are so amazing person and artist, and I'm just so glad you're here. So
Thanks for
welcome.
having me. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. Your microphone is a tiny bit quiet. Can we get that little?
Hello. Yes. Is that
Yes.
better?
Is
There
that
we go.
better? Sophia, and we have also Sophie here. Hello. You were
Hey,
missed last time.
I'm sorry, but I'm back now. Everything is
You,
fine.
all the followers were like, "Where's Sophie?"
I
But
appreciate it.
you are back in here. So let's get started. I'm just going to say about you in a minute. So I'm going to put you away. Okay. Bye. Okay. So before we're going to go into introducing Drum and Lace, let's just recap what 12 Days of Creativity is. So 12 Days of Creativity is a music production challenge. It's all about creative confidence, finding yourself as an artist, and it's all about the kind of the mental process of being an artist. Today's topic is very exciting. We're talking about finding your sound and who you are as an artist in this crazy music world and industry. So here we go. How this challenge works, you can still join it. Unbelievable. You can still join it. It ends 9th of December is the actual listening party, but you need to submit to your giveaway by the 8th of December midnight, and you need to be able to know the details of the giveaway. You need to sign up to the event from my website. So sign up to the event from the website, and you will get an email today and also email reminders in the next couple of weeks of how to submit your track. Also remember that you can still get minus 25% off for my online courses with this code 12DOC 2024. So if you want to learn Ableton Live from start to finish, how to make a track, all detail, super detailed workflow, check that out. And also you can join my Patreon community from £1 a month. And there's a lot of Patreons in the chat, I can see. So hello, everybody. Hello, my squirrel squad, which they are called. We also have giveaway prizes. We have first giveaway prize is the baby audio plugin bundle. Sophia, have you used the baby audio plugins?
I have. They're great.
Yeah, do you like them?
I do. I'm looking at which one I use the most. I mean, I just used Humanoid on a new release that is coming out on a compilation, and it was great. It was very like Imogen Heap
Oh,
fabulous. Yeah, it was made it
oh,
very
that's really
easy.
good. That's probably the one that I have not used that much out of all of
It's
them.
it's pretty wacky, but it's fun. And I get their ads. They're really good at doing the Instagram ads. I get their ads all the time
That's
for
true,
stuff.
actually. Same.
But they're great.
I absolutely my favorites are probably the reverb, crystalline, and then comeback kit, the delay. They just make all my vocals are just like synced into those two. Um, you can also win one of my online courses that I just mentioned, and also some of my merch. It has a lot of plants and synths on it. There's a little picture of it. And also there's a second giveaway, which is with the most person sharing is the person who most shares. Oh, English. Why is my English not working today? The person who shares most on the process on social media and tags me can also win my online course and merch. I've seen some of you beautiful processes already happening in social media, so I'm very glad to see that. So this far, we've been working on so many things. So we studied what kind of music we wanted to do. We created workflows, we created plans, and we also talked about time blocking and figuring out how to kind of organize your time for productivity, but healthy productivity, that you take care of yourself first. So we have done all kind of things to kind of practice figuring out yourself as an artist, and today we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And today, if your task is to finish whatever you have started. And thank you so much, DistroKid, for the sponsor of this this event. Thank you so much, because without these kind of sponsorships, we could not be doing this. So, just quickly before we go to Sophia's introduction, Sophie is here again on the backstage, checking out your comments and making sure that everybody behaves. But if you have, if you have any questions to Sophia or me, during this interview chat situation, we are very casual here. I don't know what this is, like an interview type of thing. Then please put them in the comments, and Sophie will take those comments and all those questions, and we will ask them later on from us. Yes?
Woohoo.
We understood. Great. Okay. Bye, Sophie. I always feel so rude doing that.
I keep thinking you're talking to me, and I'm like, what? I just got here.
I know. Bye, Sophie. There was still a comment. Sophia's mic was a little bit still quiet, but
I turned it up.
Okay, is that good now, everybody? Just comment in the comments if we need any adjustments.
I also brought it closer, so hopefully it should be fine. I was trying to not be too loud. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Sophia's mic is now good. Cool. Hey. Hi. Lovely to hi.
Hi.
That's a good introduction on my channel. That's how all the videos start. Hi. Hey, tell about yourself. Tell about what you do. Introduce yourself to my lovely followers there.
Well, first of all, it's such an honor to be here. I feel like we've been talking about this from when you were, this was kind of in conception mode. So it's unbelievable that we're here and that you've done all of these weeks worth of things. So it's amazing. But my name's Sophia. I'm an artist and composer, and I'm Italian, although I sound American. I'm currently based in London, and I would say that most of my time is dedicated to being a composer for film and TV. And that's sort of what I'm very lucky, pays the bills, essentially. And
you've done amazing movies.
Well, thank you. But essentially, that's what I studied when I went to music college, which wasn't the plan, but it's sort of what ended up being the plan. But then on the flip side, I also have my artist project, which is more of sort of like a pure expression of just what I want to be doing. And it's been nice to be able to keep that as a real passion outlet without having to put the pressure of necessarily making a ton of money off of it. But so I have these two sides of things. So it's like on one side, I write for other people and other people's briefs. And on the other, then I get to be completely creative. And interestingly enough, they feed into each other really, really well, where it's like I get hired for the things that I do that sound like me. But then the things that sound like me also, it's sort of like the scores then also put me on the map to then get gigs for the artist stuff. So it's
kind of feeding each other.
Yeah. So, but that's that's what I do. And during my free time, I just drink a lot of coffee and caffeine.
Sounds like a good plan. I love that. It was really fun because I got to know Red, White and Royal Blue through you. We met up for a coffee and you said, this really cool movie, it comes on Amazon soon or something. Like we chatted about that and I was like, oh, I watched it and I was like, so good. And I read the book like a million times and I'm obsessed because it was just like beautiful and your music was amazing and it was so good. And then I was watching another film from Amazon, like a horror movie, and it just suddenly said and suddenly says music by John Malaise and I was like, what? I know that person. And I was just like I didn't realize that was also your composition. And yeah, it made me really proud and I was just like, oh, that's so cool. And it was really awesome to see your name up there, and also your album has come out. And it's a beautiful composition, and I love the way that you use analog synths and the way that you organize your music to be really fluent and like going forward. It's just really inspirational. And I think, is there anything you would like to talk about that kind of as a workflow? Or
Well, actually, what's interesting, which kind of relates to this particular the topic of creative
Mm.
workflows, that for my record, so it came out in June. It's called Onda, and I worked on it the summer before, so summer 2023, I guess. And it was the first time that I approached writing, a record or EP in a new way, where in the past it would kind of be like, oh, I'm going to write something new and I'm just going to kind of like start something. And then if I get to a point where I can't continue, I'm just going to, shelf it. And, then you have this graveyard of sort of half done tracks, right? But for this record, I knew that on my compositional side, the actors and the writers for Hollywood had gone on strike. So
Mm.
nobody was going to be really, there wasn't going to be any new projects. I wasn't on any projects at the time. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give myself a timeline. I'm going to say, like, start in June. It has to be done by the time I go to the beach in August. And if anyone else is Italian, you know that in August your brain just flips off and you're like, nope, beach mode. So I was like, okay, so I know I have until mid August. And so that really meant that the only way through a track block was like through, it wasn't like, oh, I'm working on 4 tracks at once. It was like maybe I had a couple that were started, which were inspired from live improvisations, but once I started a track, I didn't close it until I got to a point where it was like kind of like, not final, but there was a
Mm.
structure and it was essentially done. And that was so hard, but it also made it so that by the end, I kind of stayed on track with the getting 10 tracks done within that time frame.
What was the time frame again?
June to August. So I treated it
Wow.
kind of like a full-time job. I was kind of like come and sit down in the morning and then work on it till the afternoon and just like kind of sit
Mm.
with it. And what's great about that too is that it made the release really consistent in that I chose a certain set of instruments and a musical palette. And because it was composed kind of in a short time frame, everything flows together. It's not
Mm.
like, oh, this random track has this instrument and then this it never comes back again. It was very much I was like in the zone with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a very new process, but I'm attempting to sort of do that with my whatever EP, LP that comes next. But I keep having to start and stop because I have other things going on, sadly. But
Yeah, that makes sense though. But I find that exactly same experience of like me making a track per month this year. The idea of like pre-planned consistency and the benefits of it. And I think that's a big part of my whole masterclass later is the idea that if you want to find who you are as an artist, there needs to be a certain level of discipline and there
mm-hmm.
needs to be a certain level of like timing and just freak like the only thing you need to do, the first thing you need to do is just to do it, like just
Yeah.
to do art. And if you feel like you're lost, then you're not doing it enough. You're not like, you need to make a plan.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like the process, I talk to so many friends who are trying to make, write their first record, write their first EP, write their second record. And it's just, you check in month after month and they're like, oh, I'm just still working on it. It's getting there. But it's like, if you don't give yourself a deadline or you
Mm.
even do something along the lines of like, oh, I know this friend is going to mix it for me or master it for me. And this is when they need it by. It's just like things can drag on forever. And, there's all the memes online of the like final, like version 5, like final version 1, final version 10
Yeah,
point, not quite
we
final,
all
final,
have that.
like whatever. And it really kind of avoids, you can't have that if you're really kind of having to
No.
do that many tracks in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, because you need to like even inside of like my months, like I had that whole like, okay, I need to make a track in a month. So what does that look like? And then I want them to represent me and my, so it couldn't just be anything random. I couldn't just sit down and just start throwing random sounds there and just hope for the best. It needed to be like, okay, I only have limited amount of time in a month. I have like couple days to do it. So what does
Yeah.
that look like? Where do I put those? Do I limit, like you said, you limited your palette limited what was on offer. Otherwise, I think we can so often get lost.
Yeah, and I feel like following your journey this last year, there was only one time that you really let it get to the very, very end. I remember you were like, "Oh my God, I have to get this done, and it has to be." What was it? A couple, like 2 or 3 months ago. But there was only one time that you consistently like just delivered. Like it's
Yeah.
so impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was the August track. It was we were still with the Diana who was mixing all my tracks. She like me and her were still bouncing back the versions the day before I released it, and it was like, oh, it needs to be out tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
like, but also because there was no like time for branding or advertisement or anything. It was literally just about the art,
Mm-hmm.
just about that, and I think that kind of schedule is just beautiful.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like before seeing you do it, I feel like it would have in my mind it's like if you're Beyonce, if you're Billie Eilish, you can just drop a record and it'll do
mm,
great, right? But I feel
yeah,
like even for myself, I always feel like I need to do like the singles and put in like the sense of anticipation, even though, the end result is that like the post, for example, the to quote to kind of bring Instagram into it again. It's like the post announcing the song coming out like does better than the post of the song coming out.
that
It's like
is
this
so true.
weird thing. But in my mind, I'm like so old school that, I was like, oh, if Onda comes out in June, I have to kind of like tease it out because if I just drop it, then it's just going to fall into this black hole. But I
Mm.
think you've proven to me that like it's so much of it is about consistency, having a schedule, and also having a community. Like
Mhm.
your squirrels. Is
My
that what it is? Yeah.
squirrels, yes.
So, if you tell people that you have something coming out each month, then that's the way to do it. That's
Mm.
the hook. Um,
But that's why it's really interesting. I appreciate that because I think that is true. I feel we focus on this old way of music industry. We think about it in a very like we need to do that pattern, but the music industry is not even near what it used to be. It's
mhm.
not even near, but we still act like it. And we act like we have PR and we act like we have this like million people working for us. As you said, like if Beyonce puts a record out, there's quite a lot of people working on it. But we are composers, we have families, we have lives, we are entrepreneurs, we need to earn money. We have like we're just one person,
Mhm.
and how the hell we're supposed to then make music but also do be all that. So I kind of purposely cut all that out and was like, fuck that. And then
Yeah, I mean PR right now. There's this really great Substack called First Floor. I don't know if you follow it, but it's this writer Sean Ronaldo, and he just last week did a whole essay about sort of the death of PR and how like the few outlets that are left are doing less and less reviews every month.
mm,
In the last couple of years, and it's like he quoted something along the lines of, "There's more music released every day today than in all of like 1989."
wow.
Which is crazy. So it's like PR, again, unless you're like a big name and you're
Mm,
trying to like get your face on a bus or something. I mean,
mm,
some like massive like billboard situation. It's just they can only do so much. It's a
yeah.
really, I think, a really pivotal time in music, but that's why finding new approaches like, is the way to go, I think.
Mm. This made me just think for the first time that is music almost like the same way that I make a YouTube video or someone makes a reel. Is that like music is just that nowadays? Is that it's just content among everything else? But I don't know if that's sad though, because it gives you so much power of just to create and just because I imagine the music industry how it was before all this, like how much pressure there was, like the amount of times that I worked with professionals in the music industry. I feel like I'm more fucked off by the attitudes or the way that people talk to me or the way that I feel after the interactions, and I just feel like right now I don't need to deal with any of those people.
That's
and
true.
and I'm just thinking like, is actually that much worse, that you can actually just make a track and just put it out there. And as much as there is a lot of stuff, you start, but it's more about, in a way, it can be more about you and your art than maybe it was ever before, because maybe it was more about money.
Yeah, I think then there needs to be a whole reshuffling then. Because I think if we try to think of the artist as a viable career, then we need to find different ways of giving the artist a chance to live. I don't know if it's like government grants. I don't know if it's, I keep joking with all of my friends. It's like bring back the patrons, like medieval style patrons. Like where's the patron with the castle that wants to just like, needs somebody to perform every evening, and then, because that's sort of what we need, because like I agree with you. There's a lot less gatekeeping because now it's very democratized, but at the same time, it's just the value of, the amount of streams you need to get to be able to make a living. So it's kind of like everyone needs to get on board with changing the way things are.
Yeah, or like personally, like how I make most of my living is just collaborations and content creation. So it's still, it's not fully music, because it's still, I need to run a business of making reviews or no, I don't do reviews, but like still making content about equipment or something instead of necessarily about my music. So it's still not necessarily that I earn the money from my music. I make the money from, there's new tool that, hey, here's, or
and I mean, I don't make, if I was just an artist, I would not be making a living. Like thankfully the film composition is what pays the bills. Like the rest is just, or like shows, it's nice if you can break even and make back what you get for traveling, but it's kind of like I hope I don't spend money.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Oh, this is an interesting conversation, but let's go back to like finding because I feel like we could talk about this for ages. So we already touched a little bit about your workflow, and that when you did your album and like your workflow and that. So let's look at the question, like the second part of this question. How do you finish music that you love? How do you feel you make music that you love? Because I just think that it's one of the biggest questions I get, is that, or if you see comments on YouTube or you see students and people are just like, I finish a lot of things, but no, I don't finish anything because I feel like I don't love it, or I can't stand behind it, or I don't feel it's good enough, but how can you fall in love with it that you can just put it out and you can feel okay with it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that with working on the record, because I was doing that approach, I mean, so essentially like there were some things that ended up sort of in like music graveyard, but it was really things that were like from the get-go I was like, no, I can't break through to this. But like I think that you just have to sort of push yourself into just like so I guess the thing that I do is if I feel stuck on a track, I will literally do the most, how we all think like, oh no, but that would be ridiculous to do. Like literally anything that I think like, oh, maybe I should try this, and instead of telling myself like, no, that's stupid, I just do it. Because it's like, well, then I can that I can see that it's stupid. And sometimes things that I think won't work actually do, or they can try to unlock something within the structure or the melody or something. But I don't know. I think that I know very quickly from when I start whether something has potential. I think the hardest thing is or I can write a very good like 30-second little thing and it can sound sick, but then like how do you make it into an actual complete track? So I think that the moment that if I can just like lay out the structure of something, then I don't know. It's not really answering your question, but I feel like I try to give all of my music the same amount of love and just kind of follow through. And sometimes I drive myself crazy because it's just like sometimes I just don't think I'll be able to get through to a track, but then somehow it does.
That's something that we've talked about like a lot on this series, is exactly what you said, is that idea of who are you to say if your ideas are good or bad. Like, who are you today? Because like something that you might hate today, you might love in 3 years, in 5 years. So if you put it in that perspective, then who are you to say it right now? So it's almost that filter is like, you might hate something, but you still need to do it. You still need
Yeah.
to.
Somebody gave me the best advice because I put out my first record, Natura, in 2022, and it did pretty well considering, it came out on a small sort of ambient vinyl label called Past Inside the Present. There was no PR for it. It was just kind of like, and it did pretty well. I mean, I'm very proud of it. But essentially, I spoke with this artist whose name is Raf Antoni Risari, who he goes by Black Knoll as well. He does a lot of mastering and stuff. And I talked to him on the phone, and he has been doing this for years and years. And he said something to me where it's like, because he could tell that I was kind of disappointed in the fact that the record didn't do great. And I think that's a whole other thing about like the delusion of having to believe that something is going to do really well to continue, but that's a whole different. But so I think he could tell that I was a little bit disappointed, and he was like, listen, it's not about, just don't think about it as individual releases. It's about the body of work.
Yeah.
It's about, I don't, if you think of people like Brian Eno or Ryuichi Sakamoto, who have these like decade spanning careers, and they change genres and they change this and they change that, and it's like, just put out stuff that you feel like is an expression of yourself in that moment. And it doesn't matter if people love it or hate it, because it's not the only thing you're going to do. Like, you're not defined by that one release.
That is exactly it.
Yeah.
And do
So
you
I
know
think
what?
that helps.
Sorry.
No. So I think that's why it's like everything that I do, I try to love the same way, because it's like in that moment, I think that's cool. But maybe in a couple of years I'll hate it. But in that moment, I try to follow through with it.
It's that consistency again that we come back to. And do you know what? I was watching this, this reminded me, I watching with my mom this documentary about Picasso. And it was very interesting because throughout the whole documentary, there was so much about like, okay, Picasso had mostly so many wives and so many people around him who was taking care of him, and the women were also artists, but then because they had families, they needed to stop being artists, right? But he also happened to move to Paris, where he's a Spanish citizen, but then he's in Paris where he didn't need to go to war. All his mates went to war, so all of their art and all of their dreams went on hold, or they never came back for it. So throughout, he lived to over 90 years old. And throughout all his life, he has never needed to give up or interfere his art for anyone else. He always had only people take care of him and like serve him or something. And he was so consistent. Like, he just made for 90 years. He just made art. And it just made me think, is that like now, like, is it that he is incredibly talented, or is it the fact that he just was super consistent and the world is just full of, like, he just had exhibition after exhibition, and he had so much embrace around him because he just had 90 years to do that, where example, some of his wives were incredibly talented as well, but they didn't have that same notion, so they never get the legendary name on them. Because so I feel that what we are chasing often is success that is actually something that is often luck or privilege or something that is not attainable for many people. And I feel that when we see that and we accept that, we see that you can also, if you can, and if you have the privilege and if you have the opportunity to be persistent with your art, it's most likely that it's gonna leave some kind of legacy, because you just fill your world and the world with your art. And I just watched that and I was thinking like,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, lucky him. I mean, but that's So I mean,
Exactly,
I
lucky him.
really think it's just in music and yeah, it's just to keep the motivation and to have the financial means and time
Mm,
to be consistent, or just I don't know. In film composition, I think that it's even more cutthroat in the sense that because you're getting hired by other people, there's only so many projects that are made. So essentially, it becomes a little bit more. I don't know. I think easier for people to sort of give up and be like, well, I don't know. But all of this to say that as I've been moving along in these years in the film composition side of things, you just see the pool of people that are able to continue get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I remember when I was in school and I was studying film composition, I was like, oh, how do all, the composers at the time, like 20 years ago, how do
mm.
they all know each other? How does community like that form? And so much of it is just, so much of that industry is just surviving. Just like if you can have a career that's 20 years long, then you've essentially made it because it's like, so it's so much easier to give up. I guess as
Because
an
it,
artist as
yeah,
well,
if you
you
just
know?
hold on, you'll be
If
there and
but
people
again,
know your name.
it just takes the privilege of like having that body of work. Or like this the crazy example too with the Grammys. The Best New Artist, they did something where they tallied up the average number of years that all of the nominees for Best New Artist for the Grammys have
Yeah,
been around before getting nominated for Best New Artist. And I think the average was like they'd been releasing music for 7 years. This is
yeah.
the like best new artist,
Mm.
like Sabrina Carpenter has 6 studio records under her belt and she's just now like
100%.
it's
And
crazy.
humans, that is so good way of explaining it. I feel like something that I've noticed is it's so much about how people perceive you because it's not necessarily even your talent or music. It's so much about how people perceive you and how much your face is attached to some image. So example, I feel like I've been doing now YouTube, I think 5.5 years, I think. And so now when people talk about Ableton or women who use Ableton, my face can be attached to that because when you Google that, I'm there like,
Yeah, yeah.
learn about compression. Do you know what I mean? So then if there is that like idea of, okay, well, let's do a panel with women who do Ableton, it's like I might be there because I show up and I've done it for so long. But then I think that's the same thing with anything. If that's the exactly like if you just hold on and you just do something, people start associating you with whatever that is, whether they even know if you're good or bad, whether they even know if they like you. Because there might be that people sign up me for an Ableton thing that they never even seen my video just because my face is somewhere, they kind of associate it with it. So it's quite like sad, but also crazy that that's kind of like how humans just work. But then also changing that image is really difficult because now I want to become more of a I like my personal thing is that I want to be seen more as an artist than an educator. But changing that is so difficult. And that's why I started making the one track a month challenge, because I was like, well, instead of just putting like tutorial to people's faces, I'm putting like, here's my music. And then I hope that that's kind of changing the way I see myself and how I prioritize myself. But it's like you attract what you do. And
Yeah.
if I mainly do music, even if I don't get paid for it yet, I start attracting it's the same way that I attracted the stuff that I was doing when I did more tutorials.
I think we talked about this when we saw each other last year. That I
Mm,
was just in the process of separating, trying to create a separation between my
yeah.
scoring and my artist stuff. And a year on, I can say that I am successfully seeing the results of that. And it's like you're so right. There's so much unlearning to do, and I mean, to be honest, there's so much that we have to keep track of every day that I think like it's literally a trauma response for the brain to like put things in boxes that it knows. So
Yeah.
like I'm not surprised, or like all of us are just kind of going by the day being like, trying to like turn off
Yeah.
dumpster fires all over the place. Um but so I mean, for me, what's been working is the scoring is now being done in my name, so Sofia degli Alessandri, and then all of my artist stuff is under Drum and Lace. And it took a lot of, again, just organization, and it's like separate Instagram accounts, separate
Yes.
websites, separate social media, separate photos, separate whatever. But recently, I posted something from my composer account to Drum and Lace, and I had a couple people be like, "Whoa, you do scoring for film?" And I was like, "Oh my god, it's working!" They don't know that I'm also, they just think I'm
Yeah.
an artist. So it is possible. It's just more time, more social media to join, more things, and it's like you can do it. It's just the effort behind it. And I mean, I think that for me, compared to like if you wanted to separate your stuff, I think yours is a little bit more intrinsically linked, just because what you are an educator of is also very tied in with electronic
Yeah.
music. Whereas for me, it's like very two different worlds.
Absolutely.
But it
But it
is
also takes
possible.
it takes also, like, it's scary. Like, because I feel like it feels like you're starting again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what older you get, the scarier it gets, because there's these unlearned behaviors that you need to learn, that because you're changing. And I feel that I'm still completely in the beginning of my career. I'm in my early 30s, but I still feel that. And I think this society says that you need to be figured it all out by your 30. And I think, like, suddenly, like, hey, I'm learning to DJ, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. It's like it feels there's a slight sense of like embarrassment in it, or like, starting a new Instagram account where suddenly you're starting from zero and
Mm-hmm.
separating something completely different. There's like, you already built something that people know, but then same time it doesn't work if you don't separate it. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
certain embarrassment and shame if you do it, and even though it's better for everybody. And I've gone through a lot of these things in my life, and I don't know if this is something that you identify with.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I feel like, even the Instagram for my composer thing has so much less, but I also curate it less because I feel like for that line of work, it's less important to have the thousands of likes.
Mm.
So I kind of try to find silver linings as to why and how I can like be okay with it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like all industries just glorify the young prodigy. Everyone is supposed to be like 20 years old and have a Grammy, or like, have been, uh, had Quincy Jones as a mentor or something. And you're just like, well, this isn't the world that like most of us live in.
No.
I will say my favorite anecdote about age is that John Williams did not really start scoring until he was 40 years old. And he's now 90 and he's still going. But he was 40 when he, I think, did Jaws or Star Wars.
Wow. That's
So I
so
mean,
cool.
it's never too late to for
Definitely.
things to hit. Or look at Pedro Pascal. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just in the last 10 years, but he's like, I don't want to age him, but he must at least be in his mid 40s, right? Early 50s.
I
I mean,
think he might be even older.
actors are wild.
Yeah.
Like the fact that an actor can hang on and become a success as like a middle-aged person
Yeah.
blows my mind. Like the amount of perseverance. And it's
I
based
know.
on looks.
It's based
Imagine if
on.
all of your thing was based on looks, like music, whatever, taste, but like looks, oh my God, that'd be
Mm.
terrifying.
That is so true. And I feel like that's something that I have, like, now started to be like, okay, when I look at people out there of where do I want to go, I started to follow artists that are older than me, or that are my age, that are doing things that are a little bit older. But I'm not really looking at the 20-year-olds, because I feel like it's not favoring, like, it's not doing anything good for me right now. I feel like I rather look at somebody who is their 40s and 50s, and what kind of career they have, what are they doing, what kind of things they're doing. And I feel like that is something I want to embrace, and be like, okay, if they are doing these things, I can go towards that direction. And when I'm in my 40s, I can do that. And I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot healthier mentality to think than. And also kind of, I feel like, again, that's kind of comes back to this topic of this day, is finding yourself is also accepting who you want to be and what you want out of life. Like, I've realized that as very neurodiverse person, like, most of EDM world is not for me. It's very not for me. But there's also areas of it that I can love and I can be part of, but they need to be on my terms, and I want to access them in my terms. And it causes a lot of limitations of where my career can grow. But why would I even want to grow into the direction that I know I'm not going to enjoy?
Yeah, I've been I actually had a friend the other day, she's a DJ and an artist, and she just posted about her journey to DJing sober. And I think she said it's been about a year since she stopped drinking, and how hard it was to unlearn having to be, kind of wasted to DJ, and how she's learned it now and it's so much more fun. But that all kind of goes hand in hand with this kind of like these behaviors that, like, sure, you see them as limitations, but then our health is kind of all we have, so it's sort of like, sure, maybe the person who's my age, who's partying all night and out every night, is getting more opportunities, but there's always a point where you're going to have to pay for that, whether it's like, I don't know. I think that and I mean, this is something that I should be telling myself too, because it's something I can, see in myself as well. But just we do what we can, and it's like, so every opportunity just becomes something we embrace. And like, I'm a true believer in, like, if something isn't meant to be, it's not meant to be. So just kind of like, when one door closes, another opens. But I know what you mean. I completely,
It's almost like, is it the opportunities that you want? Because like, I was in this panel conversation once, and there was this person who was saying like, oh, in the music industry, you just need to have a tough skin, you just need to have a thick skin, you just need to endure it and all this. And I was like, no, it's like, no, you need to be vulnerable, you need to understand where you are. Because like, if you feel shit, then you need to recognize that you feel shit, and like, maybe you shouldn't talk to that person, or maybe you shouldn't have that opportunity if they make you feel shit, and you just need to have a tough skin. No, you don't need to work with shit people that make you feel shit. And I know that it's maybe like you lose the opportunity, but would the opportunity be worth it if you feel absolutely shit, and it would crush your self-confidence and your creativity?
And God forbid, like, you then have to go through PTSD for God knows what, for any sort of verbal, whatever, like any sort of, it's just, is it really worth it? But again, I think it goes back to this, everyone just wants the overnight success. Everyone just wants the kind of like, be the big thing, do the sprint versus the marathon. And I think, that's obviously glorified, but I think so much of this career path that I'm assuming all of us want, in this chat and in this conversation, it's just the goal is for us to be doing this in our 90s or like beyond, that's really the goal. Yeah.
So, and to be able to do that, you need to take care of yourself, and you need to take care of your mental health and your creative confidence, because that's why I'm so passionate about creative confidence, because I know from personal experience how one sentence from someone you admire or you think is above you can literally tear you down. And like, someone told me from a publishing company that I'm a decent producer, but I shouldn't sing because I'm a shit singer. So I didn't sing for almost like 8 years, because it still makes me feel a bit emotional, because I was 23. I was so vulnerable, and till that day, I never questioned my singing voice. I thought I was like I wasn't like Beyonce, but I was a decent singer, and I had my voice, and it was my unique expression. And someone just said it was shit like that, and from someone who with authority said that to me.
And they probably said it as an afterthought. They probably didn't even realize what they said, because they're just in a position of power where they feel like they can say anything. It's so shitty.
And as much as someone could say, oh, don't be so weak, you need to toughen up. No, I can feel shit about that. I'm allowed to feel shit about that. And I'm also allowed to say that that person can go fuck themselves, and that they shouldn't say that to me. And I now feel really protective over this whole thing, is that I don't want this industry to do that to other people that what it did to me, and that it's okay to feel shit about it, and it's okay to, but there's also community and there's ways to build your confidence back. But how important that confidence is that it's yours, and it's yours to treasure and yours to take care of, and not someone's to take away. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate people giving feedback. You know, like of course it's good to get feedback, and but they could have phrased it in a way that was more positive to you. They could have said like, "Hey, so I would maybe consider working on techniques for recording." Just like something that brought your emphasis on that, but made you excited to like further your craft, not made you feel like crap.
That and also unsolicited advice is like, when is it necessary and when is it not?
Yeah, I was just when I was in the US playing a couple shows, I stopped by the college I went to. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and I stopped by the film scoring department, which is what I graduated from. And there was a teacher in one of the classes. We had to do score an assignment. And I just remember, talking of like traumatizing moments, like he sat me down, we were doing like one-on-one revisions or whatever, and he'd given me a D or something. And he sat me down and he just looked at me and shook his head, and he was like, "I don't even know what to say about this." Like there was nothing positive. There wasn't like a, "Hey, so maybe you should do this." He's like, "I don't even know what to say." And essentially I wound up having to rewrite the assignment in a way that I thought he was going to like. And, that crushed me because I left, it was like it wasn't my last semester, but it was like the semester before last. And it was just one of those things where it's just, you feel so unsupported. And so, now going back for the first time, and I was speaking to some of the students, of course, like I was speaking to students in the electronic music program and in the film scoring program. And that teacher is long gone. He actually, I think, may have passed away because he was like old 20 years ago. So whatever. Good riddance. But I went back, and a lot of the same teachers were there. And they were like, "Oh, are you okay?" Because I think I like looked visibly kind of like traumatized to be back in the classroom. And I was like, "Yeah, I feel like I can see how it's so much more supportive now." Like there were women on staff for one, whatever. But
Ooh,
all of them. But the thing that they all said to me was like, "Oh, but we all knew you would do great. You had such a unique like perspective. We all knew you could do." And I was just kind of like, "Why are you saying this to me now? Why couldn't someone back then have been like, instead of saying I don't know what to say to you, be like, hey, I know that you have a different perspective about this, and I appreciate and admire this, but for this assignment, could you please do something more like this?" Like that would have made such a big difference, And it's just like, it's so wild. And then people, and then of course this person, if you put, if one of your singles does really great, the same person might come back to you and be like, "Oh, it sounds great," and you're like, "Really, you, the person that destroyed me?" Like, Ugh.
Honestly, Sophia, this topic, because with Sophie, who's also here, we've had this chat. So she's had a mentoring where basically they said is like, "You're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong," and this whole thing just made me think is that, who are these people to tell you that? If like, as much as they might be experienced or in an authority position, art is subjective, and art will always be subjective. It's different to say, okay, about mixing techniques or something, but even they are subjective, because all of it is like, science is right, everything else is just opinions, everything else. So you might have an argument about LFO and the metrics of it or something, but even that is how you apply it. That's subjective. So teacher, industry professional, nobody has the right to say if you are right or wrong with your creativity. There's no failure in creativity. You cannot do it wrong. So it makes me so angry, physically angry, that person has said that to you, and you've gone through that, because that sounds horrible. And the amount that I still see this happening, and that fact that this happened to Sophie like just last week, and I just feel like it happens more and more and more. And where people think that there is right and wrong in art, and especially when it comes to music, that there's right and wrong way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, we already have AI that makes everything like, that's what humans are beautiful for, that we are different, we are unique, we have weird ways to glitch and sound different and be untuned and be faulty and be nasty and rough.
But you
and
know who the worst, are? And I have
Who?
stopped using this service because of this. Submit Hub. This like 19-year-olds that are talking to you about your freaking production skills. And I'm like, bro, let's hear
so
your
true,
beats. And they're like, oh, it's not this enough. I would work. And I was like, what? And then there's like their photo of them like nerdily at the computer. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm so done with you. Like, whatever. It's just like, it's
That
so
is so true, because I've used Submit Hub a lot this year, and I feel like it's almost like I've noticed that there's no point to send something that if I don't know that it will be somehow in their taste. There's no like, they just like, I just posted a reel like 10 minutes before this stream, is that there was this Submit Hub guys that all of them said violin doesn't belong to house music. Violin is not like, and I was like, what? Violin doesn't belong to house music. It's like,
yeah.
that was the response I got from one of my tracks, and so that was their input.
Whatever. I mean,
What?
like sometimes it works, but it's like, even for me, it's like, unless it's a track that I know is a little bit more like, like that you can put into a box. But the thing is that like, why would you want to make music that fits into a box if like we are not all the same? Like, and that's the thing. I think that that's such a big thing too with like sharing music, or like I don't know, like if somebody gave you and I the same exact tools, we would not make the same thing.
No.
Then it's like, how do we expect things to fit in boxes that are like predetermined? It's wild.
That's something that I'm going to be talking about, exactly the masterclass idea, is that I feel like something that I've kind of found balance. I personally feel like as a LNA, I'm happy to be a little bit more in the box, but uniquely in a box, because that's what they want. They want you to be in a box, but unique, but in a box. So you still need to stay there. But I feel like as a LNA, I'm happy to play the game a little bit, but on my own terms. Just take the things that I want from it, but leave the rest. But you need to be really clear what the rules of the game is so that you can play them. But as Liina Turtonen, I'm not going to play any of the games. As Liina Turtonen, I'm going to be exactly who I am and do whatever I want. But that separation for me has been really important, because that allows me to then deal with gatekeepers a lot better, and the fact that how to earn money and how to commercialize whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
We had one question. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I talked about you, but you were still there.
This is so okay. Yeah, we just had one question, and I think it kind of intersects with what's already been said, but I think it's an interesting one anyway. And somebody asked, on the subject of creating music, like, how do you create your music? And do you have something in your head first and then bring it to the door, or do you play around and see what happens? They also said that they often can't bring to the door what is inside their head, which I think is such a common like obstacle almost to get over. So I guess it's a question to Sophia, but also to Lena as well, to be honest.
That's a very good point. Go and go for it, Sophia.
I feel like for me it depends. It kind of it's different things. So sometimes it starts from a sound that I record, like a field recording, either on my phone, on a field recorder, something that's very rhythmic, whether it's like water or, a banging that, I hear something and that I bang on it, and then that kind of kickstarts stuff. And that also really helps me with rhythm. I think I mentioned that something else. I can't remember if it was a podcast that I did or something recently, but essentially if I feel lost in starting like something rhythmic, then I bring in a sample of water or of crickets or of nature. And inherently, that'll have a rhythm of its own. And then even to just get inspiration for tempo or for, a beat or something. So like using nature sounds to do that. Other times I'm sitting at the piano or I'm sitting, or I'm playing around with modulars, and that'll kickstart something, and then I'll sample it or just record it, and then I'll just go off of that. So it's always very much just kind of like, well, let's play around and see if something happens. And I do a lot of these big sampling sessions. So I'll pick an instrument and I'll just put Ableton on and I'll just record for 30 minutes and I'll just be messing around. And then after I go back and listen and I'm like, oh, this could be cool. And then I start chopping things up and kind of get started from that. Sometimes, and it's usually always when I'm like just laying down to go to bed, I'll get like a melodic idea and I'm just like, oh, now I have to like wake up and like,
Yeah.
but that's usually when I sing it into my phone. So that'll sometimes happen. But the obstacle of not being able to do what it is that you are hearing is, I think it just practice, like with everything, like you just need to keep going and going and going. Because I feel like I'm finally at the point where it's like if I hear something in my head or I hear a sound, I have the tools to be able to do that. But it hasn't always been this way, obviously.
It's a bit like if you have a pen and you want to draw a picture, you know how to use the pen to draw a picture. The same way is with synths and computer and stuff. The fact is that there's just zillion million more things that you need to learn and a bit more complex. So you just need to keep it simple as well. So just like when you're starting, don't keep it the pencil level, is like have one synth that you learn really well, and then when you feel comfortable with that, learn another synth that really well. It's like, don't try to learn everything at the same time, because then it can also be very overwhelming. It's okay, and it takes years. Learning production takes years, so it's okay as well. By the way, I was gonna say that I can so hear those inspirations in your music. It's
good.
so cool to hear you say that, because I'm like, oh yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a way for me to make electronic music also feel a little bit more organic, because I always feel like I want to bring something sort of more, organic into my music, and that's usually the way to do it. Yeah.
I just realized it's 6 o'clock. That was really good, interesting conversation. Question still, but do you have time to quickly answer one more, or do you need to go?
Yeah. I can't believe we've been chatting for an hour already.
I know. Like
We could
been-
just make this into a podcast separate.
I was just literally thinking the same. I feel like we need to make a podcast. We have so much to chat. There was these questions that, does your work on TV, film influence your solo artist work, and vice versa? That's a really interesting thing.
Yes, and 100% does. Actually, one of the tracks from Onda was a demo for a project that I didn't get. And when I was putting together the record, I was like, wait a minute, I wrote this thing that had a really cool, like, prepared piano. And the track turned out to be Nymph, which is the fourth track on my record. So a lot of times that doesn't happen very often, because once you start a project, in theory, whatever you write while on the project is you give the ownership goes to the project. But this was just a demo, didn't get the project, whatever. So, but also sometimes I will compose, while I'm composing, I'll find like a really cool patch or a really cool sound in something, and then I'll write it down and make sure to then use it in my own music. I'm trying to think if there's any direct things to music that I've done. I don't know. But so that's how the scoring influences the other. And the other way around is that I will get hired onto a project, and in film, they use something called temp music, so temporary music, to kind of set the tone, so that then when you're composing, you kind of know what to go off of. And very often they'll use temp music that's my own artist music. So then that way I'm able to bring the things that I've written into my scoring stuff, obviously in a more like digestible and light version, because I think overall film projects need to appeal to more people than my artist project. But they influence each other a lot. And again, like I said at the beginning, I think I get hired on film stuff because I have the artist angle. and I get more opportunities because people know me from the film stuff for my artist stuff. So
That's
definitely a
interesting.
crossover.
That is super interesting. I love that there's a podcast would be wonderful. There we go.
All right. Food for
All right.
thought.
We don't have enough stuff yet, so let's start well, to be honest, I am starting a podcast next year already. On this topic, creative confidence. So it's about creativity. So maybe I need to get some guests there.
Yeah, I mean,
Chats.
podcasts are really a great, I don't know, I feel like it's a great sort of moment. Like podcasts have been doing great for a while, I feel like. And you have such a good voice for stuff. I mean, both you and Soph are just so like good on camera. I'm so like not. I recorded a video of myself on Instagram today, and I was like, how do people do this? How do you talk to the camera? I'm just like so
That's
awkward.
so cute. I saw it on your Instagram stories. Was it today? And then you put like,
yeah, it was
oh,
so
that was
awkward.
awkward.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Hey, no, it wasn't. That is beautiful. I think you did really great.
Well, I recorded like 4 times because the first time I went over the limit and it cut me off, and then I was like, okay, I got to be faster. So I just kept cutting out info.
Do you know what? That is just real. That is the realest thing. I did
So
this like
true.
very very casual TikToks today answering questions, and the actual casual took me 5 takes to
Yeah,
take.
it's
Because
why-
also when you're not like native English speaker, and then you also I just talk blah, 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 and then I'm just like, what? I didn't even realize what I was trying to say. So that's why it's going to be interesting podcast, because what my idea is that I'm going to be like non-cut version of it. So it's because it's about authenticity, it's about creative confidence and insecurities. So the idea is that I will not cut it. So whatever it is there, it's there, because that's the whole point of it, is that like uncensored conversation by yourself, monologues about insecurities. But then there will be like voice notes and letters from other artists, like reflecting on the things, and then I can just like chat about them.
Amazing.
But hey, thank you so much for being here with us today. You
Of
are absolutely
course.
brilliant.
I hope that anyone that's listening got something out of it. Yeah.
Yes. And can you plug your stuff?
Yes. Gladly. Well, the biggest thing is that I am putting together a fundraiser show and winter solstice show in London. So if anyone is based in London, it's on December 5th at the Old Church in Stoke Newington. All proceeds go to a children's fund. It's myself playing Anna Quiroga, Pomelo, which is Luke, Elliot, and Wynn. And then my friend Elisa, who's also Italian, will be DJing. And it's just, the church is really cool. Tickets are on Resident Advisor, and I think Lena also put them in the comments.
Yes, there's links, and there's your link tree, and then there's your
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp, and then
Yes.
the event link. So you want to talk about the Bandcamp still?
Yeah, so my record came out in June. I have vinyl for it. There are wonderful denim caps if anyone likes wearing hats. But Bandcamp is so great, and I know you're uploading your new release on there as well. And it's just
because you told me to, and I was like, thank you for your advice.
Well,
so
because
I
the
took
thing
your
is that-
advice on it.
The thing is that, like, if anyone bought, for somebody, even if you're like, oh, but I stream something anyway, if you just buy it once on Bandcamp, that is more to the artist than like 10 years of streams can do, So it's like so appreciated and important to support your favorite artists on Bandcamp, even if then you're going to listen to them on Spotify, Tidal, whatever. So yeah, my Bandcamp is up there. And then my link tree has everything else you could need. IMDb for film stuff, more catalog, mailing list, merch, whatever. But really come to the show if you're in London. It would be really cool to see folks.
That's a really good point. Yes, everybody go there. I know there's some followers who are in London based, so please go there. There's more questions coming on you, but go and ask them in Drum and Lace's Instagram. I'm sure that you can answer questions there. further
Yes.
questions and anything. So go and follow Drum and Lace on Instagram, because I think it's just at Drum and Lace, isn't it?
Yeah, Drum and Lace on there, on Blue Sky, on X, which I'm not really going to be using that much anymore. But yeah, come find me on social media.
Awesome. And I love what you said, the denim cap, and I could see Sophie's like eyes, because I know Sophie
Immediately.
love merch.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely, lovely day and evening. And anyone who wants to stay, please stay, because I'm doing the whole masterclass about finding your own sound, and it's based on a lot of my own experiences. So I'm going to talk about how I figured out what kind of music I want to make and how I fell in love with it. And after my dramatic experiences of feeling shit about myself, how did I kind of come to it and figured things out? So come there 6:30 p.m. so in 20 minutes on my channel again. So I will be doing a little speech about that. Thank you so much, Sophia and Sophie, and we will see you again in 20 minutes. Bye.
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 And stream ends.